Stugotz, are you mad at the Mets? Do you think the Mets choked?
It's a good question. Am I mad at the Mets for having a 100-win season, making it to the playoff, having a best of 3, all games at home against San Diego? I'm not. I'm disappointed in the Mets because I think the Mets have the best team, and we're leading that division for most of the season, right up till the very end. The disappointing part is you had it all set up in Atlanta. With DeGrom, with Scherzer, you had your pitchers, you had the rotation set up. I'm not mad yet. I might get mad. I reserve the right to maybe get mad.
Wait a minute. Okay, wait a minute. So you're going to play the result on getting mad when the Mets did not choke, because even though they had a 10.5 game lead in June,
right,
they went 63-44. It's a 95-win pace. It's just that the Braves have been incredible. The Braves were on a 114-win pace the whole second half of the season. But they had the Braves,
and they got swept by them last week.
They had them, right. They had them. I mean, they did have them. They had the tiebreaker. If they tied, the Mets had the series lead for the season. But they still made the playoffs. It's hard to be upset at a team that won 100 games.
It is.
And made it to the playoffs.
A lot of very good baseball teams in that sport, and the playoffs should be fun. And maximum baseball, where all of a sudden Stugotz reserves the right to 2 games from now. He'll be angry at the Mets for what just happened.
We didn't pick you up on this yesterday, Stugotz, but you talked about the Mets as sort of like lovable underdogs going up against this behemoth that is the Los Angeles Dodgers.
Yeah.
And they're this team that everyone knows has spent a crazy amount of money, and they've sort of perfected the regular season version of this sport.
Mm-hmm.
The Mets have a bigger payroll than the Dodgers, I learned yesterday.
I know.
And I was kind of surprised at the framing of it off of that.
The
Dodgers are just very good at this.
But they don't know what they're doing is really the thing.
Right, exactly.
Right? Like, that's the thing about the Mets. They don't really know what they're doing with all that money.
We're always the underdog.
Yeah.
Yes. Right.
I mean, you spent $281 million on this team.
We spent it wisely, too. I mean, they did. Lindor and guys like that, they spent it very well. But they're just, to Dan's point, the Mets have played well the entire season. The Braves, since the All-Star break, have been the best team in baseball.
114 win pace, the 76-32 down the stretch. That's not the Mets coughing it up when they win at a 95 win pace. That's really good. And the Braves,
114 win pace. They only won 100, so they blew it.
It's only because of the head-to-head. When you have a chance to lock this thing up
with your 2 best starters,
right?
Yes.
And in a head-to-head series, you lose all 3 games. That's actually a very sportsy thing that we like baseball doesn't have enough of anymore. It's all about numbers and sample sizes and all that stuff. In that context, it was just these teams played each other 3 times, and the Mets choked. And we can say that about a baseball thing. We don't have to look at numbers. Can we have a sports conversation about
win a game, man.
A game.
Yeah, but the wild card has really ruined the Mets choked because they still got to the playoffs.
But win a game.
Yeah.
I'm a little disappointed in the wild card. I got to be honest.
They got to play like a 3-game series.
This is where you lose liberal, compassionate Whittingham, who doesn't want to be criticizing the athletes. Win a game.
I mean, that was a playoff series, and they got swept. Like that, and you're going into it thinking that you're going to lose to the Padres, correct?
Yes.
So
yeah, of course. I mean, the Padres. Listen, the Mets have to win a 3-game set at home. Just win 2 out of 3. It's all they have to do. But as a Met fan, you are conditioned, and a Jet fan, you are conditioned to think the worst. And of course, I think the Mets are going to get bounced out at home to the San Diego Padres without Tatis. Of course.
Who, by the way, the Padres, I think most people would say, had a disappointing season for what the expectations were for the Padres.
Well, Tatis was out, Bill.
No, I know Tatis was out, and Soto hasn't really been that good, but you're going in there with 100 wins, and you're complaining that this has been a disappointing season to you.
That's crazy.
When the Padres are the ones that have actually had the disappointing season, and you think that they're going to bounce you out of the playoffs.
But there's pressure on the Mets to get past the Padres. There is 0 pressure on San Diego. Like San Diego just getting to this point without their best player, that's an achievement.
I disagree.
They spent a lot of money.
The only thing that I know about baseball is that San Diego is all in. And they keep making moves to go even further all in than they were
Stugotz,
than the
this
last
is not
time
a
that they went
success.
all
This
in.
is not a success for the Padres getting into this. They were supposed to come after the Dodgers and feel like the Dodgers. They saw what the Dodgers were doing, and the Padres said, "No, we can spend with you. We'll start with Machado, and now we're going to go Soto, and we're going to go Tatis, and we're going to get into the big spending game."
But they still have Soto, Machado next year. They can say to themselves, hey, 89-72, made it to the wild card, made it to the playoffs without our full roster, without our best player.
Stugotz, it's still,
think about that. Their best player.
But it's still a disappointment. And he was a disappointment before he got hurt and became more of a disappointment when he ended up getting in trouble for steroids. But we've gone too far in the show. Chelsea Handler is going to be on with us here in a little bit. We've gone too far in the show without getting to these top 5 lists that we've had. Top 5 hockey names since the local hour. Top 5 hockey names. Oh, did Tkachuk make it?
Yes, he did.
Wait,
Spoiler
you said
alert.
you said family names.
Right. So for me, names that have had success in hockey either through multiple generations or through a plurality in one generation.
The F.
The F.
Roy is right here. Roy is engaged. Roy is here to have a spirited dispute with any of the names on your list that don't belong. Number 5.
Well, actually, I have 2 OLIs before we begin with number 5.
Really? So this is number 7, huh?
Correct. Number OLI, the Sedines.
That's a funny name. I don't know why. That's just funny. That's just excellent as an OLI. Number 6.
The other OLI are the Stalls.
Number 5.
The Suitors.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Only 5?
There's like 9 of them.
Number 4, the Espositos.
The Sutters or Suitors, Roy? I don't know.
The Suitors and the Sutters. I think you mean the Sutters.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
Well, what do you mean? The Suitors are they're the Sutters and
Yeah,
the
there's an
Suitors.
extra T in that situation.
Wait, really?
Yes.
No,
3 T's?
2 T's and that's 1 T.
Brent Sutter, Dwayne Sutter.
There's a 1T Sutter?
Yeah.
Yeah.
3 T's.
How about that?
Gary Suter played for the Blackhawks. So, yeah.
Number 3, the Kachucks.
It's just, and I don't think it would make it if it wasn't the silent T. It's such a great silent T.
We might have to do the best silent T's. In
Top
history.
5 silent
Top
T's.
5 silent T's. I'm going to have to work on that.
So good. Number 2.
The Hulls.
Number 1.
The Hows.
Man.
The Richards didn't make it, did they?
The who?
The Richards.
The Richards.
You know what?
Yeah,
I
for the
saw
Canadians.
the
Richard.
Richards on the website I looked at. I didn't know how to say the name. I didn't know there were players in the 50s.
so you went
long
Suitors.
ago.
Yeah.
Oh, so
I was
wow,
scared
it
of
was
the
too long
Richards.
ago.
Henri Richard has like
I'm
11
also-
Stanley Cup titles.
I'm also hopelessly unqualified to do this list, so I did the best
They're
that
all
I
good
could.
names, though. I think you did well.
Yeah, you did good.
You did fine. Let me ask you guys this question because it is now fodder for not just the internet, but tabloids with credible reporting on the Tom Brady, Gisele Bundchen reportedly have gotten divorce lawyers. And I've told you before that all of this stuff makes me uncomfortable. It makes me uncomfortable too when there are kids involved and we pry. And so I'm not here really for the jokes in all of this. I am curious though, as a construct in the hypothetical, understanding that a lot goes into love and a lot goes into marriage and partnership and how much people grow in relationships. And I wouldn't dare guess or be presumptuous enough to think that I know what is going on in their household. Okay. But from their quotes about wanting Tom, her quotes about wanting Tom home for years, and her quotes about I want to get to my life too while she's on the magazine covers, and she in her 40s is every bit as successful in the glamour and beauty and sport and brand. And she's the rare person in the world who is Tom Brady's equal in her field, and she wants her things too. And she has talked about the sacrifices that she has made so that he may get the fountain of youth that anyone listening to this would say, of course, Tom Brady wants to play forever. And everybody gets dragged off the field by their neck. Of course, he wants to play 8 years past his expiration date. He wants a fountain of youth.
Is this the Dolphins' fault? That's my question. If Brian Flores didn't sue the Dolphins,
The ultimate revenge of the Dolphins. We lost, but we ruined your marriage.
I did see people blaming Adam Schefter for leaking the retirement announcement. But if it's the Dolphins' fault, then it's really the Brian Flores lawsuit, which means it's really the conspiracy theory of Bill Belichick texting the congrats Brian to the wrong Brian is back in play, which means maybe this is a long con by Bill Belichick to ruin Tom Brady's life. And look, I don't condone conspiracy theories. I also feel icky talking about athletes and their personal lives, but there has been just an enormous amount of attention on this because they're both public figures, and it's very shocking that they may be getting divorced now. I'm not sure what this, what to say about it, what's kosher, like what we can speculate on, but all of this is in play. There's also a rumor that she's a good witch. It's all over TikTok. All of these things are in play.
What?
A good witch.
Well, he said once in an interview that she was a good witch and that she told him ahead of. There's this long clip on social media you can all find. It's him saying that like she predicted when he was going to have a good or bad season and would like give him crystals that were for good luck and all these different things. And now, she didn't want him to play the season allegedly, and he did. And so this is because he went against her will, and she's a good witch. And
There's a 30 for 30 here on just whatever it is that happened
The hell is happening
with the
here?
Dolphins.
I'm just saying, like, this is all over the internet. I don't know what, like, I don't want to cross a line. I've been
It's-
careful to talk about
okay.
any of it because, like what Dan said, like, they have a family and kids and everything. but-
Jessica, throughout the history of sport and journalism and gossip tabloids in America, people of this kind of fame, one of the things signed into the contract is we're going to be invasive, and it comes with fame. You don't get it on your terms. It's not a menu item. That's one of the deals. If you're Marilyn Monroe, it can make you deeply unhappy. Arriving at that fame. It sounded like it with Jeremy Lin. Like you open it's the genie's curse of may all your dreams come true.
But we're choosing to talk about it. Like we could just not talk about
well,
it.
Well, you
Yes.
can acknowledge that it's happening and that it's a thing, but not be like, well, he's losing games because of his stupid ex-wife. Like, not do the sports radio thing of like, the relationship is why this, and like, maybe he should have done this instead. I don't know, Billy. Like, I agree with you. Like, we can obviously decide how much to talk about it, but there is a line because they are public figures where you can talk about it, but like how you talk about it matters more than.
I actually thought coming
Talking
back to
about it or
football
not.
was less than like signing a 10-year broadcasting deal because like it's 1 year versus okay now there's 10 more years of this after this, which
he's gonna have to work. Like that's as cush of a gig as he'll have.
I mean, I feel like he could just show up and do that thing, no?
Show up on
No,
a Friday,
did you-
leave on a Sunday night.
Did you guys see Drew Brees' interview about that? Like, Drew Brees retired, went to NBC for a year. He was calling Notre Dame games and doing Football Night in America. And he was doing an interview. I forget where. I saw it on Awful Announcing or something, where he was like, I didn't realize how much work this was. And it's better than, having to work at the facility and being away from your family because you can do all the prep work at home. But like, it's a lot of work, and I don't know what Tom Brady, what his gig is and what he signed up for. Maybe he's not calling games, so it's not as bad. But essentially, he was like, holy shit, I thought I was going to be like taking a year off, but I had to travel, I had to prep.
Everybody's got his job where you just show up and wing it.
That was essentially what he was saying. He's like, this is more than I realized I was signing up for. And so he only did it
Worked
for a
out
year,
well
and
for
now
me, I mean.
Breeze is not on NBC anymore.
There is a reason that most of these people only work once a week. There's a reason that you will hear in Herb Street's broadcasts because he's doing 100 players in these college games, and it's a lot. I don't think people understand. Whittingham has an understanding of it, but there's a reason. These are 60-hour work weeks. A lot of people don't understand how John Oliver's show, for example, goes off for weeks at a time. It's because they are hard weeks. And I think a lot of people think the broadcaster can just show up. Yeah, go ahead and make a couple of mistakes on a Sunday when everyone's watching, Stugotz, and everyone feeds, and see how quickly you don't get turned into an idiot whose credibility is questioned every Sunday.
I mean, I did a Final Four women's lacrosse. I mean, you forget I showed up 1 minute
That's true.
before the game, and I crushed it. I mean, I did. I know my
Ridiculous.
sport. I
But
do.
Tom Brady's made over $300 million. Why does he have to work? Like, he doesn't have to have a job. He's made over $300 million.
He didn't have to play football this year.
Yeah. Why does he have to work other than just he has something in him that's gives him this drive to do things? And I guess he doesn't like complacency or boredom, or he wants to challenge himself or whatever. But like, he doesn't have to work. Neither does Drew Brees, by the way.
That is correct.
He made over $100 million.
Okay, and you're correct. And I think as people think about their relationship with work now, never more so than through the pandemic, where you got to be all sorts of introspective about your life decisions and what is real life balance and what do you need your relationship with work to be. What if you get your identity in this particular factory that sharpens you into, I am Tom Brady, conqueror of men? Can you just stand on a beach and read books and raise kids? Or are you going to need to be worker guy, conqueror guy? What do you mean Aikman's got this much? What do you mean Romo's making this much? I'm Tom Brady. I want to keep competing forever.
I don't know what Tom Brady wants to do with his life, but just like in a general sense, athletes tend to want to stay around the game, whether it's broadcasting or coaching. And obviously broadcasting is the more high paying of those two options. So Billy, it might be just his way of being like, I love football and I want to stick around it. Maybe I thought I was going to get a minority stake in the Dolphins, and no, I'm not. So this is a good backup plan for the rest of my...
But he's been around the game forever. Like most people retire when they're 35 from football, 35, 40, get into broadcasting. That's understandable. Brady's getting into it when he's 50 years old. Spend some time with your kids. Let your wife go do the things that she wants to do.
I don't want to do that.
Why?
I just don't.
No, Dan, because when you're Tom Brady, you could fire up a podcast from home and make millions of dollars.
Stugotz,
okay?
I don't know what kind of father.
He does it with Jim Gray.
I don't know what kind of father he is. I don't want to question what kind of father he is. And I don't want to drag his kids any more into this than we already have.
Sorry about that.
I do think that this story, such that we want to discuss it publicly, for me, is sort of the overall cost of greatness between the two of them. These are two of the greatest people at what they do, and what is the cost of that? What is the cost from a human perspective of Tom Brady, not only from a football perspective, recognizing I can still do this, I can still play at 45, I can do something that nobody has ever done before or probably will do after me.
Whittingham. This is like Shakespearean.
Right. And then you go from that to, wait, hang on a second. Troy Aikman's making $20 million doing broadcasting. Tony Romo's making $18 million doing. I'm better than him. I'm better than them. Peyton Manning's getting all this praise for the Manning cast. I'm better than him. I'm better than them. I'm going to go beat them at what they do. And then he signed a contract that was bigger than theirs. Like that, for me, is who Tom Brady is as a person.
And beyond that, this is the part, Stugotz, you can't just do showing up stuff.
Right.
Like the trade he made this year, and this is why I think there's a 30 for 30 in just all the shrapnel that happened around the Dolphins and Tom Brady potentially leaving football or coming back to football, or whether he actually meant to retire, or whether he was going to move into ownership and do this at his pace, a slower pace. To me, it's nuts, Stugotz, that you've got a guy who's 7 or 8 years past when anybody's ever played at this level. And he just played against Mahomes, and no athlete has ever wanted that to end. The guys who quit earlier at running back because it hurts too much. He's perfected what he's doing. He's getting rid of the ball so fast, doesn't have to scramble, that you come in thinking he doesn't hurt that much, and he can take Wednesdays off during the season. Wednesdays off. But you can't be Tom Brady part-time. Like being Tom Brady, to be that in that sport, he can't just go out there on Thursday and be like, let me figure it out today. On Sunday.
Well, I'm not saying he can wing it there. I'm just saying with broadcasting, perhaps it's a bit, the schedule is a bit easier.
I'm just talking about who he's been. Like Drew Brees talked about the grind it out of the being there on Tuesday night at 11 p.m. and you're the only one in the film room, and how greatness is lonely. There are very few people who know. There's nobody who knows what it is to be Tom Brady and how it is that he stays beating health among everything else, like beating age, not just opponents. Like, it makes no sense. Who gives that up? Nobody gives it up, but she's looking at her career and she's like, and it's the beauty. It is. No matter how much we change, it's the beauty realm, and she's still on the cover of magazines. And her youth, wherever the vanities reside, is also getting older, and she wants to do it forever because it's a part of her identity.
Dan, correct me if I'm wrong, but a guy who gave it up, now I know he came back and played for the Wizards, and there was ownership involved there, but Jordan gave it up. He won 6 titles. A lot of people felt like if he stayed with that team, Dan, he could have won 3 more,
Stugotz.
4 more. He gave it up.
Andrew
like
Luck,
Brady's proven enough.
And Andrew Luck gave it up as well. Let me ask you this: as the doctor around whom the concussion movie is built, Stugotz, let me ask you this question as it relates to Tua. The doctor is saying, Tua, hang it up. You don't want to go down this path of more and more concussions here after the one we just saw, and after possible concussions 2 days, a couple of days apart. The bargain that these guys make with this sport, because it's addictive and you love it and everything, it will risk your health and your love. Like it will challenge your health and your love of family. Like when Russell Wilson does the family first TikTok lame dance that everyone is making fun of him for, and when it becomes about football and family, like it can be hard to have it be both, Stugotz. Like, because how if you have to be full-time Tom Brady, how available are you to be anything other than full-time Tom, what it takes to be Tom Brady, whatever that is? Like, do you think you could put your phone, you think you could put his phone
But you don't
in?
have to be full-time Tom Brady, I think is what we're trying to say. Like,
But I think Dan's saying he's wired that way.
Yeah,
Like,
I don't think Tom Brady thinks
That's
he could
sad.
be part-time Tom Brady.
I feel bad if
I do
that's the
too.
case. That
Right.
you just have accomplished all this stuff and you still don't feel fulfillment. Like, I feel bad that that's the point that you reach to, that, like, presumably, if things are playing out behind the scenes the way they are publicly, like, his family life seems to be falling apart, and it's just because he can't let go. Like, that's sad if that's the case.
But I think in the, like, Tom Brady, like, the first line of his obituary will be greatest quarterback of all time, longest lasting quarterback of all time. He feels like this thing that he is embarking on
That would be
defines
the first
him.
Whitty, that would be the first line if he stopped 5 years ago.
Agreed.
Okay.
But you can also, like,
think about it
but
from
you
her
can
vantage
incorporate
point.
defied age. Like, you will use language that is saved for the very greatest among us.
But greatest broadcaster's probably not going to be on
Correct.
there.
That's
So,
fair.
like, why are we embarking on this 10-year unnecessary journey, which I think might be the way she sees it as well. Also, and money, I mean, they have plenty of money. And if this is like a big dick measuring contest of I can make more than Troy Aikman, I can make more than Peyton, I can do this, like, you proved that already. I just don't do it. Just be like, you know what? Never mind. Thanks these backsies. I'm not going to do it.
Great, I don't have to
I
do
already got
this.
the $300 million offer.
Right.
No thanks.
If
I'm
there's
good.
one thing we know about people with a lot of money, is that they want more money. Always.
Good shout.
That's a great question, Billy. If
Never
only
enough.
we could answer that, and maybe people would start paying their goddamn taxes.
Billy, you are so right about how much money do you need when you've made as much as they have. But I don't think it becomes about money. It becomes about where your identity has been tied up. Do you think that Tom Brady can just putter around the house? Like, do you think that Tom Brady can just stop working after competing, after being Tom Brady, and all it took to be Tom Brady? You think those ingredients, you could just put them in a garage somewhere and you're not going to atrophy in some way? You mentally, physically, spiritually, because you're not fed by whatever it is he's been chasing as a conqueror?
Oh, I mean, I don't think this is exclusive to Tom Brady, right? Like, look at our industry. I don't think you guys are going to be able to just walk away at some point. I don't think Stugotz is going to be doing this until he's dead. Do you think Stugotz is at some point just going to be like, hey, you know what? I'm tired of talking. Like, I don't want to talk sports. And like, probably not. People hang on to, if you wrap your entire identity around your profession, right, and you do it for such a long time, it's hard to walk away from that, whatever it may be, lawyer, banker, whatever it is. Like, if that's what you've been the majority of your life, because that's like when you're getting to the point of retiring, that's the majority of your life, what you've done, what you've made your identity, the way that you've lived your life is based on that profession and the money that you've made. Like, it's hard for anyone, but it's also sad. Like, it's sad that you can't just walk away and have these great things and kind of enjoy everything that you spent your entire life working towards. And it's double sad that not only can't you enjoy it, like it could fall apart because of the fact that you can't just walk away and enjoy it.
I agree. I feel like he needs to find something in post-retirement that fills that itch that's like competitive. A lot of people are doing where he lives in Florida. He's able to still be athletic. I'm obviously talking about pickleball.
Yes.
Pickleball
yes, he'd be great at it.
Huge
yes.
in his age demographic. It's so competitive. It's so much fun. If he just joins, he could buy a team and compete with LeBron.
Buy a league.
LeBron just invested
Start
in
a
major
competition.
pickleball
Right.
league.
I mean,
Yes.
imagine the fulfillment in that, Dan. He's dominated football. Now he can buy a competing team, and he can go head-to-head against LeBron. Two of the greatest athletes of all time, if not definitely the greatest athletes of our era, right? Like two of the most successful athletes, probably of all time. And now they could go head-to-head where before we didn't think that was possible, all thanks to pickleball.
But what if he devotes himself to pickleball the same way he devotes himself to football, and now he still doesn't have any of the time that he needed to get back by leaving
The
football?
games are shorter, Woody. The games are shorter,
Okay.
all right?
I just think the overall concept of introducing normalcy, normal social constructs, marriage, kids, vacations, retirement, at-home life, to these two enormously successful people, and one seems allergic to it, and the other's like, can I get back to my other thing, please? That these two people can't handle almost living a normal life that most people lead because they are driven by something else is kind of fascinating.
Well, Jessica and Billy are articulating something that I imagine the audience is listening to some of this and being like, yes, of course, you've got your priorities straight. Balanced life is the better way to go. It should be family first and not football first. However, the trade is, hey, Tom Brady, you can be young forever. And then when you retire, $375 million. It's a genie popping up out of a bottle. And it's like, the choice that you're making is behind the genie, but everyone is going to be snowed by the fountain of youth and the $375 million because of societal constructs about identity and work. Like,
Except your wife, Dan.
Yeah, but that's and your kids,
Right.
and your kids who need a loving dad at home. Like,
I do think as the kids get older, they're probably poking and prodding Tom. Like, it's very cool that their dad is Tom Brady. They're starting to realize how cool it is. Hey, my dad, greatest quarterback of all time, and still doing it at 46 years old. I do believe there's some of that going on.
I don't know. That's just you
I don't
being
know.
Stugotz as the son of Tom Brady. I
Herschel
don't know.
Walker's
I
kids
mean,
hate him. Like, have you
right.
seen what's gone on with that? Like,
It's a
I don't
different
know.
story, Bill.
No,
Why are you comparing
there's a lot more going
is a
on there than
different story.
I did
Yeah, a
not
little bit
expect you
more,
to say
yeah.
that just now. Oh my God.
You just decided you were going to be famous. You didn't know exactly what it would look like, but you just said, I'm going to be somebody whose voice gets heard.
Yeah, that's how I felt. I moved out to LA from New Jersey when I was about 19. And I just, with the idea that like, I have opinions that are important and I need them to be heard and people are going to really benefit from that. That's what I believed. And I didn't know what shape that would take or what form that would take. I thought, oh, I'll be an actress. I wasn't really thin enough to be a model. And I also wasn't really good enough to be an actress because it was saying other people's words. So that didn't really suit me either. And then somebody just told me, I had gotten a DUI when I was 21 years old, and I went to DUI class where they basically teach you for 8 weeks, once a week on a Wednesday night to get out of your next DUI, how to get out of your next DUI. And during that class, you have to get up and you have to tell your story. And I remember just being like, oh God, I can't do this. This is so diarrhea inducing. I mean, to get up and speak in front of people was so scary that I just would sit in the back and kind of hide each night. And then finally, when I had to do it in the very last class, I couldn't get off the stage. I just loved it. And my story was ridiculous because I got pulled over. I called the cop a racist. Meanwhile, we were both white. And I just was telling my personal story. And when I got off stage, well, not off stage, but when I got down, I remember the guy running the class was like, hey, this isn't stand-up comedy. Okay, this is serious. Like, you're supposed to share your learnings. And when I got off, everybody was like, oh, you should do stand-up comedy. And I was like, oh, I had never thought about that. And then I thought, oh, that sounds so scary. Because it is. It's still scary at times. But yeah, so that's how the idea popped into my head. A stranger told me.
But how do you go from being someone who hides in the back of the room to immediately unspooling a story that isn't filled with terror, but instead changes your entire life path?
Yeah, I mean, I've always been good at storytelling and I've always been kind of, an extrovert. I like to talk. I just didn't know I liked to talk in front of all of those people. Like it's like being at a dinner party, but you're the only one talking. And then the allure of being on stage with a microphone and having no one else contributing, you're like, oh, this is perfect.
It's all me. And can you tell me what success looked like for you at the beginning? Like, what do you regard when you look back at the happiest times of, wait a minute, I can actually do this for a living. There's money in it. I can achieve. I can actually spend my life laughing and creating. Where did that discovery emerge?
I guess, getting noticed by different people in the industry, becoming a regular at places like the Improv and the Comedy Store, getting that kind of attention and realizing that, oh, I have something here that I might be good at. In the beginning for me of stand-up, it was really easy. I didn't have a lot of bombs. That happened like in my second and third year of doing stand-up, because I think if that had happened in the beginning, I probably would have been like, fuck this, I'm not doing this. Yeah, just like little small successes all along the way that lead up to, bigger and bigger ones. And then I got a development deal and then I got on a TV show, and it just kind of built in a very kind of steady way. And I was reaping benefits from it. And then I was like, oh, this is the greatest choice, because then every creative opportunity is kind of built around you. Like Chelsea Lately was built around me because I had made a name for myself. Like my books are all, my stories about my life. And so I started just kind of creating this, this business, or my professional life was basically just sharing my personal life.
She'll be performing at the Hard Rock Live at Seminole Hard Rock Hotel and Casino November 20th. HRL.com is where you go. Comedy Tour, Vaccinated and Horny is the name of it. I want to talk to her about everything going on in the country at the moment, because I imagine she's being interesting at this trough. But I wanted to ask you a couple of follow-up on a couple of the things that you said there. Bombing, you mentioned. What are the memorable bombs that you have in the second and third year, the ones that are most horrifying, the ones that would deter a less confident Chelsea Handler if it had been at the start of her career?
Oh, I was performing in New Jersey at this club called Rascals, and my father and brother had come to see me perform, and it was like I was in my second year of doing stand-up, and some guy was heckling me, telling me to take my top off. He's like, shut up with the jokes, just take your top off. And I just lost it, like not lost it on him, but like I didn't know how to recover from that. I had no experience with that. And I remember getting off stage and my brother just going, you can never, ever let that happen again. And I remember thinking, okay, you're right, I can't, because I just, I didn't have the skill set then. Now, if somebody yells out anything in one of my shows, they shut up really quickly. But, and I know how to handle it. But that would be one of my most memorable bombs. I also bombed at the Just for Laughs Montreal Comedy Festival when I was around 28 or 29 in a major way, in front of all of the important people that were supposed to see me there. I was like the it girl of the festival, and I tanked it. And I was devastated. And then 48 hours later in LA, we invited the two executives, one was from NBC and one was from another network, I can't remember, to come and see me in LA. They hadn't been at that show, and I got a development deal that day. So like it went from me having the most disastrous night of my career to 48 hours later getting a development deal. So that's just how quickly things can change in this business.
You mentioned your show, and it was groundbreaking and pioneering in some ways. Trevor Noah is leaving that slot, and that slot doesn't tend to go to women. That slot tends to go to men. I imagine you have run up across a lot of that, wondering why late night television is the exclusive domain of the man.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm ready to get back into late night. We've been having lots of conversations about me going back on TV, because I really do feel like this is a time where women need to be represented, and they are completely underrepresented. So yeah, there are conversations that are happening right now about me returning to late night.
Tell me more. You can't do well, that's it. That was very vague. You've got something in the works. You should be coming back to late night. There's no reason why your voice needs to be heard at the moment. And I imagine you could tell us more, but aren't going to.
That's right.
Okay, very good. But it's exciting for you, right? Because can you tell me what it is that you have seen from the industry in that regard? Like, why is the industry so homogenous that way?
I just think there's a lack of risk taking and a lack of, like they need to be convinced of things. And I mean, until I did my stint, I hosted Jimmy Kimmel a few months ago for a week. And until I did that, I didn't have really the desire to go back to late night. And then that really just the reaction, the public reaction, the social media reaction, all of it just made me really understand that this is a time where like voices like mine are needed. I know that job. I can do that job. And I can crush that job. So I am interested in coming back to late night now, whether it's a reboot of Chelsea Later, whether it's Trevor Noah's show, taking over that show, whether it's any of those things. Like, I'm ready to take on that responsibility again. And I'm in a place where it doesn't feel like, oh God, like a burden to me, like I did when I left Chelsea lately. I was just kind of over it. But no, this is a time where women are underrepresented, and it's just, that's indisputable. So yeah, there's a lot of conversations going on right now.
Where do you side? I hear a lot of comedians complaining about the last couple of years being too restrictive, cancel culture, etc. But also I see a lot of material over the last couple of years where the deftest comedians would be super invigorated and inspired by the ability to do comedy in this time. Where do you fall?
I think that if you're feeling restricted by being told not to be racist or be sexist or being sexist, then you should come up with some new material. Like, it's not that hard. That's not a tall order. And that's all anybody's asking, is to be non-discriminatory, like you can be clever enough to make up other jokes that aren't hurting people's feelings in a major way or marginalizing entire swaths of the population. It's not that difficult. So I don't really have a lot of appetite for arguing about cancel culture. Like, it's just like, don't be an asshole.
Your outrage is where, though, when you've seen what the reaction is to the Me Too movement, where you see the backlash to the Me Too movement that ends up with a woman's body no longer being her own as rendered by law, American law.
Yeah, I would agree with that that backlash is that's what happens when women stand up for themselves. When they say, "Hey, we're not going to allow you to rape or sexually assault us anymore. We're telling on you, the party's over." And then we have the repercussion of Roe v. Wade. So you're right. There is a correlation there, I believe.
And what do you think's happened there, though? Because I imagine you're covering this ground in Vaccinated and Horny, right? Like, it's not like you sit out the important stuff, and I don't even know how much of you is fueled by outrage. I don't know how much of your funny comes from a place where you have to be righteously indignant to get some of your best stuff.
Well, I mean, as a woman, everybody's kind of outraged. And if you're not outraged as a woman, and men should be outraged on behalf of us too. It's not only our problem, it's the world's problem. You know what I mean? When there's inequality, that affects everybody in a deleterious way. It's not just when women are suffering that women are suffering. Men are suffering along with us, whether you guys realize that or not. So it would be nice to have more support from men instead of passive support, with like having men really outspoken on behalf of the rights of women. And when women are being called insensitive or histrionic, it's like, hey, we just won the rights to do what we want with our bodies like 50 years ago, and they're still trying to take it away from us today. So it's really like annoying to hear anybody complain about how hard it is being a white guy when that's what's happening to women.
Can you tell me who you admire as the craftsmen of your industry right now? The people who are doing stand-up where you're watching them and you're just really enjoying the sculpting of the craft, because there aren't many like you, Chelsea, that get to make a career this way. It's a very small club. It's not even just now. It's throughout history. The ability to make this a career creates a really unusual group of people that's a very small community.
Well, there's a lot of comics coming up who I admire a lot. Rosebud Baker, Mateo Lane. I mean, there's a new generation of voices that are happening or that are, talking about things in a real way. And I like that. They're not glossing over things. They're not trying to like present an image or a persona. They're being themselves. And that's what I respect in watching any talent, is somebody who's not afraid to say it like it is and be honest about who you are, the good and the bad and the ugly and the embarrassing. I mean, that's what makes you relatable, and that's true. And I think, anyone who's a fan of mine is coming to me for the truth, because I'm not glossing over things. I'm not using filters to portray myself in a way that I want to be seen. I'm being real. And there's a lot of value in being real and a lot of actually respectability, I think, in being who you are.
Which comics shaped you?
That's a tough question for me because I never even was going to be a comedian. I mean, I wasn't even planning on that. But I didn't, I looked up to Bill Cosby for a long time and then look what happened. So I can't really name that many people that shaped me. But I mean, I'm influenced by all sorts of entertainers, David Sedaris for writing books. I'm influenced by Whoopi Goldberg and her honesty. So people like that, in all different kinds of mediums, not just stand up.
What are the roots of your honesty?
They're vaginal. The roots of my honesty just come from growing up in a family where I had to laugh because otherwise it was just too ridiculous. It was embarrassing. My whole childhood, it was, my parents were just a hot mess, two hot messes. And we had 6 kids and, there was a lot to draw from. And so I had a big personality from a very young age and I'm not shy. So it was a natural fit for me to end up where I am.
Where does your funny come from? Like, what is it? Is it from the same place? Did you have to laugh at what was happening in your house?
Yeah. I mean, I think, I grew up in a place where it was just slightly, off kilter. We were, in this neighborhood where everybody we were in a middle-class Jewish Italian neighborhood where everybody had, nice houses and brand new cars. And my father was a used car dealer and our driveway was in the middle of all of these beautiful homes looking like, Sanford and Son. So I was embarrassed on a very material level from a very young age. I just couldn't believe this was my family. My parents didn't go to school meetings. They didn't drop me off on time. They sure as shit didn't pick me up from school. And it was just constant, who's in charge around here? So I grew up at a very young age and I became in charge of myself at a very young age. And, I just had to kind of take the reins for myself and be like, all right, this is not the lifestyle I want to have. So I'm going to have to get out of here as quickly as possible. I remember looking in the want ads when I was about 11 years old, trying to find my own apartment. And my parents had to explain to me that it was illegal for me to do that.
Can you explain to me what age you think that you were an adult?
Oh, I thought I was an adult, probably around 6 or 7.
How does that happen? Is it because of the weirdness and the negligence and everything you just described? Because that's nuts.
Yes, supreme negligence. That's a good way. I remember going to Hebrew school and I would go outside to be picked up, and everyone's cars were in line at Hebrew school, their parents, to pick them up, but nobody would carpool with me because they knew my parents wouldn't remember to pick anyone up. So I wasn't part of a carpool, and I remember sitting outside of Hebrew school on Sunday afternoons, and the janitor, Isaac, who worked at the Hebrew school, would come out and he'd be like, the very first time I went to Hebrew school, I was sitting there going, where are my parents? Where are they? And he was like, oh, you must be a handler. He's like, your father's not going to be here for at least an hour and a half.
MyHRL.com is where you go if you want to see Chelsea Handler November 20th. She's performing at the Hard Rock Live at Seminole Hard Rock Hotel and Casino. The comedy tour is Vaccinated and Horny. Have you forgiven them, or did you arrive at a place where you were able to heal all of that? Because that doesn't seem like a great childhood situation, although the freedom seems like it'd be great.
Yeah, I mean, I was more focused on my freedom. Yes, I've forgiven them. Well, they're both dead. So, I mean, yeah, I forgave my parents. But I don't like the saying that everybody's doing the best that they can, because I just don't believe that that's true, especially for my parents. I think some people are just trying to get by. Not everybody's doing the very best that they can. That's a real intention you have to set every day. But yeah, I forgave them a long time ago because it gave me so much material to work with. I mean, the first time I got on a plane with my mom, we walked by the first class section. And I was like, whoa, what's this? And my mom's like, oh, don't worry, honey, this is first class. We're never going to fly first class. We have 6 children in our family. We can't afford that. And then 3 years later on my next flight, guess who? I was 13 years old. I had saved up all my babysitting money and we were flying to California to visit my grandparents. And I got myself a first class ticket. And when we boarded that plane, I sat in 2A and my mom looked at me and she said, honey, what are you doing? I told you we don't fly first class. And I was like, speak for yourself. I bought this ticket, and I will see you at the end of the flight.
Holy shit. What is that? Like, what did that feel like? What did it feel like to be able to spit that at 13 years old?
It felt like the beginning of the rest of my life.
And freedom for you, right? It felt you broke free at a very early age from things that could have dragged you down.
Yeah, I was just like, this is where I belong. Like, this is my section. I'm going to be flying first from now on. And I just felt like I just always felt like I wanted big things and I wanted a big life, and nothing was really going to get in my way.
How is it possible, though, that you arrive at that kind of neglect and don't end up feeling unloved or damaged by feeling unloved?
Well, I was certainly damaged, but I never felt unloved. I mean, I was definitely loved. There was a lot of love in my house. My parents were just not equipped to have that many children, and they were exhausted. And I had 5 brothers and sisters who, were amazing to me and picked up the slack where my parents had, fallen off. So there was definitely not a lot of neglect, but there was no lack of love.
The siblings also funny? Funny household?
Oh, yeah, we're all funny. We're all very sarcastic, and we have different senses of humor, but kind of always, different, but very similar as well. So, yeah, we have a lot of, we're a very tight-knit group. We spend a lot of time together, even as adults.
Where did that permission come from, though? Like, or did you just arrive at it on your own? Because funny needs permission to grow, no matter how confident you are as a young person.
Well, my parents appreciated the funny. They were funny too in their own ways, very different from each other. But we all just kind of grew up, nobody knows exactly what you went through as a child except for the other people that were living in your house. So we had that in common, and that bonded us from the get-go. And my brothers and sisters never got picked up from Hebrew school either. So my sister went to kindergarten for 3 days before my mom was notified by the school that she wasn't old enough to go to kindergarten. She was just walking to school with my older brothers, and my mom had no idea. And 3 days in, they called her and were like, your daughter's not ready to go to regular school yet. She's only 4 years old. And my mom's like, oh, I didn't even know she was going. So, there you go. So that gives us a lot to laugh at, rather than, if we just looked at it at face value, it would be sad. But luckily we don't, because we all have senses of humor.
What is the inspiration behind Vaccinated and Horny? Why is it different than other things you've done? I would imagine the lack of precedent in the last 3 or 4 years would be helpful here.
Oh, yeah. There's so much to draw from what I experienced through COVID and what we all went through during COVID, and just kind of picking apart that behavior, me trying to date during COVID and giving people nasal swabs when they came to my backyard, potential penetrators. I would basically give a nasal swab to somebody. I had my own COVID test, plug it in the cartridge, and it gave me like 30 minutes to run the diagnostics to find out if they were COVID negative or positive. And then during that time, I could just interview them. And if they said anything that annoyed me, or if I saw a pinky ring, I would just tell them that they were positive and they had to go quarantine for 2 weeks.
How was dating during COVID?
It was fruitful, quite frankly. For some reason, I had a lot of dates during COVID. Yeah, it was good. I had to get the ball rolling because I didn't want to wait too long to get out there, because I was like, oh my God, if everyone gets out there at the same time, all the single people, then there's going to be like a new STD, like coverpies or something. And I wanted to get ahead of that.
I like the efficiency, though. Did you find that COVID was helpful to dating because you could then run out pinky rings and get everybody? It was a vetting process that helped you get out of here. Just get out of here. You're diseased. Run away.
Yeah. It was a great excuse to get rid of someone once you realize you're not interested in them. Rather than being on a date and being like, oh, I don't like this guy. How am I gonna get rid of him? Or what excuse am I gonna make? It was a perfect one, because not only could I lie and tell them they had COVID, then they would be forced to sit in their house for 2 weeks to actually think about what they may have done wrong.
MyHRL.com. Again, Chelsea Handler is performing November 20th. It is the Vaccinated and Horny Tour. Chelsea, thank you. It was good seeing you.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Mike, sure, we normally bring you on to talk about baseball things, but today we must begin with one of the major pieces of news of the day, and that, of course, is the retirement of Blake Bortles. How devastating is that to you?
You're breaking the news to me. I hadn't
What?
heard.
Yeah, Blake Bortles is retiring from professional football.
Huh.
A legend. A straight up legend. You know, we made Jason Mendoza on The Good Place a Jacksonville Jaguars fan, and Joe Mandy, who was a writer for the show, decided that at a key moment when throwing a Molotov cocktail at a speedboat, which is like the dirtbaggiest thing you can possibly do, that Jason Mendoza would yell Bortles the way that some people yell Kobe when they take shots or whatever. He just threw that in. And so then we just had Jason Mendoza say Bortles all the time. It became like a running joke. A large number of people on Twitter would say, if the Jaguars were playing a primetime game, a large number of people on Twitter, if you searched for Blake Bortles, would say, today I learned that Blake Bortles is a real person and not a made-up character from The Good Place. So eventually the Jacksonville Jaguars PR people reached out to us, and they were like, hey, we're so happy that you are mentioning the team and Blake all the time. And privately, we were like, you are? Like, it's not in a positive context, you know? But they were really happy, and they were really cool. They arranged for Manny Jacinto, who played Jason, to go to a Jacksonville playoff game, the game where they won at home, like 10-3. I think they beat the Steelers. He was at that game. They brought him, rolled out the red carpet. They sent us an enormous box. We got an enormous box one day sent to the office that was full of Blake Bortles signed footballs and jerseys. Like, I have 7 signed Blake Bortles footballs in my office.
How are we informing you of this? How are we breaking
It's 7 o'clock in the morning in Los Angeles.
I woke up at 6:15 to had some cereal and turned on Zoom so I could join your little show there.
Oh,
I
again
haven't
with
checked the news.
Again with our little show, this guy.
While we're eulogizing Blake Bortles, I would quickly like to point out him and Tim Tebow, the bane of Steelers fans' existence in the 21st century, beating the Steelers twice in 2018 when the Steelers had healthy Le'Veon Bell, Antonio Brown, Ben Roethlisberger, in the regular season and in the playoffs, throwing for 214 yards and a 45-42 win, when it was probably the Steelers' best chance to win a Super Bowl before Roethlisberger retired.
Not that you're holding on to the details. Or
right. I mean, you won 2.
Bortles
Get over it.
will always hold a special place
Mike,
in my cold, black, dusty heart.
Mike, I have to be honest. I'm stunned that the Jacksonville Jaguars got on board. The whole Jason Mendoza is a character who's in hell and is talking about all of the things that are bad with Jacksonville. And
correct.
Using Blake Bortles' name to throw a Molotov cocktail at a boat, and they're like, that's our brand.
They didn't get the
Here's
joke.
some free shit.
They did not get the joke. They didn't understand that it was an insult. They were just thrilled that anyone was mentioning Jacksonville things on national television.
I think they did get the joke, but I think that they were just happy that the team was relevant in a pop culture way. The funniest joke, in my opinion, that we ever told about the Jaguars, and we told too many of them, is there was a moment where at one point Ted Danson's character said in a roast format that the Jacksonville Jaguars sucked, and Jason's response was, no, we don't. All we need is an offense and a defense and some rule changes.
Whittingham, we just got done talking to Chelsea Handler, and I think she might have sort of accidentally let some stuff slip in some clues there with, it seems, you and Jeremy Taché were doing some sleuthing, and you discovered, because she said Chelsea later as a show?
Yeah, so she was talking about how she is interested in getting back into late night and reference her old E! show, Chelsea Later, but her old E! show is called Chelsea Lately. And so Jeremy and I were sort of theorizing there's 3 things that could happen there. 1, she can get her own show on a platform. 2 would be to be up for The Daily Show. And 3 would be to be up for James Corden's empty slot on CBS and eventually take over after Stephen Colbert and have it be Chelsea Later. But I feel like that last one would kind of be the most interesting to me because it'd be a network late night show, and she would have a chance to potentially host it.
Or she misspoke.
Well,
there is that. There is that possibility. Mike, where
that's not fun though.
Where do you, because you're someone who loves television, what the way that late night television has changed, the way that late night television has historically been so homogenized in a way that's kind of crazy. What do you make of the changes presently going on in the sphere where Trevor Noah says 7 years is about enough. I'm going out into the stand-up circuit, and Kimmel and Fallon and all of those guys, and it's almost always guys, exist viral clips in the morning more than late night television.
Yeah, it's night and day from when I was involved, which is 100 years ago at SNL. I think the thing that Trevor Noah just did is the single biggest change, which is it used to be that when you got one of those jobs, that was your job forever. You held on to that job as long as you possibly could. That was Carson did it for 30 years or 29 years, and Letterman did it forever, and then he moved to CBS and did it for another forever. Conan did it forever and then went to The Tonight Show and would have done that forever, except for the fact that they pulled the rug out from under him. It wasn't a job that you left, really. And now what you're seeing is, Stewart left after I can't remember how many years, a long time. But he left at a time when he was still incredibly popular and could have kept going for another decade, was replaced by Trevor Noah. And then after 7 years, and this is a generational thing, I think Trevor Noah was like, all right, I'm good. Like, I got out of this. This was fun. This was an experience. 7 years is a long time. I'm going to do something else. That wasn't the mentality of late night hosts until very recently. So those jobs used to come up once every 15 years or something. And now it seems like maybe they're going to come up 3 or 4 times a decade. And part of the reason is because they're not as coveted. It's not as huge a deal to be on at 11:30 or 12:30. So I think what you'll see is a lot more change in general in the next 15, 20 years than there has been in the previous 20. And they'll try a bunch of different stuff. I'm sure that a woman will get her shot finally. It's never happened. One of the storylines in the pilot of the show Hacks is that she was going to be, the Jean Smart's character was going to be the first woman who ever got a late night talk show on a network, and that was in like the 70s, and it still hasn't happened in real life, and it's 2022. I guess you can count Samantha Bee, but that wasn't technically a network. So I think you'll see women get shots finally. You'll probably see more people of color get shots, and who knows how long they'll stick or decide to stick or whatever. I think there will be a tremendous amount of turnover in the next 10 or 20 years of this in this industry.
Would you include Joan Rivers in that? She had her own show on Fox before it was canceled because
for a brief, yeah. I guess that the Joan Rivers thing was the inspiration, I think, for the Hacks storyline, because she was supposed to take over for Carson in theory, or he was thinking about turning it over to her, and then she got the offer from Fox and left and did it, and it lasted for like 6 weeks or something. I don't think it lasted much longer than that. And then that was sort of the end of the story. And then he never forgave her. He was a pretty vindictive dude, apparently. And he was just like, never talk to her again for the rest of her life because she had done that. And then it's, I guess that's true. Technically, that was a network, then primetime or nighttime talk show. So yes, got me, Roy. That's on a technicality.
That's
I
right.
wasn't trying to get
got
you.
you.
All that matters.
Got you. It's all that
He's been
matters.
crushing
Roy,
all of our
Roy
theses
jumped
this
up
segment.
and jumped on your neck. Before we get,
You know what? Or I misspoke.
Yes.
How about that?
Right,
There it
you go.
is.
Yeah, okay, there you go.
Stat of the day is coming in moments. But before you came on, Mike, we were talking about Brady, Tom Brady and Gisele, and we were talking about work-life balance. And one of the things that we did not mention were the quotes from Bennett Amalu on, he wrote the book, Brain Damage in Contact Sports. The movie Concussion with Will Smith is based on his work.
We also discussed that she might be a witch, Gisele.
A good witch, yes.
Yes.
And Amalu is quoted as saying, if you love your life, Tatua, if you love your family, you love your kids, if you have kids, it's time to gallantly walk away. Go find something else to do. Tua, my brother, I love you. I love you as much as I love my son. Stop playing, stop, hang your helmet, and gallantly walk away. He should stop. Sometimes money is not more valuable than human life. $20 billion is not worth more than your brain. What are we supposed to do with that coming from that guy?
Good Lord, man. Can I ask, and maybe you don't know the answer, does he have any relationship with Tua at all, or is he speaking from afar as a
Well, he
person
loves
who's
him as
never
much
met
as
him?
his son.
So does Mike Ryan,
Right.
though.
I mean, that's a person just speaking out loud into the universe. That's not like they're not actually friends. Am I correct?
That's correct. This is someone advised.
relationship,
This is a
right.
concussion expert that I am assuming has seen the footage. I'm assuming that that's not just a gasbagging opinion. I'm assuming that he knows what it means better than most of us, that his hands would do that in front of his face.
I mean, I don't know what to make of that. I don't have any idea what to make of that. And I don't know what it's like to be a high-level competitive athlete at the top of my field who has the thrills that come along with playing in front of fans and succeeding the way Tua has for his entire life and continues to have now this year. However, I don't think that he's saying anything. If you asked me to address Tua Tagovailoa and say what I truly felt in my heart, not being a concussion expert, I feel like I would say the same thing. Like, don't do this anymore. Look what happened. That was really scary. Everyone was really scared. If you have anything else in your life that you love doing, maybe go do that instead. Like, that's a concussion expert saying the thing that, whether or not you feel it now, every single person felt at the moment that they saw those images of him on the ground, which was like, this isn't okay. It's not okay that this game exists, that he's allowed to play this game. He shouldn't have been back in this game. He was concussed last week. This is terrible. He might be permanently damaged. Like those feelings subsided, as we talked about yesterday. After 15 minutes, those feelings subsided. After another hour, they subsided more. But in that moment, can any of you really say that you were thinking anything different than get him the hell out of football forever? That's what we all felt.
Not forever. Right? Maybe that game, maybe the season, but not forever. You realize you would walk in and say that to Tua, and he would laugh at you. Tua wants to play this week if he can. Right.
Of course he would. Yes. That's the reason that the protocols exist is because the guys will always want to play. They will always want to be back in there. And so you have to physically stop them. You have to, by the letter of the law, stop them from doing things that are going to get them hurt. And I'm not saying that he should retire. I have no idea. That's not up to me. I'm just saying that in that moment, the thing that you were feeling, the sickness, the grossness in your gut, was because you, at least I'll speak for myself, I felt like this game should be illegal. This is human cockfighting. It should be outlawed. All these people should arrest them. Arrest all the people who invented football and play football. Throw them all in jail. This is not okay. And that I feel like that's now a concussion expert just saying the same thing with a lot of understanding about the human brain and how it works.
We've got some he's sure questions for you as well. But let's go and start with our stat of the day.
Start of the day, start of the day. It is your start of the day. Start of the day, start of the day. It is your start of the day. Start of the day, start of the day. It is your start of the day. Start of the day, start of the day. It is your start of the day.
The stat of the day is presented by ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire.
Freddie Freeman of the Los Angeles Dodgers leads all of baseball in hits with 196. No one got 200 hits last year. So if Freeman doesn't get 4 hits in the final regular season game today, it will be the first back-to-back seasons where no one has had 200 hits since 1918 and 1919, when one of those guys who had 200 hits or was trying to get 200 hits was Ty Cobb. So it's been more than 100 years since no one has had 200 hits. Wow. And that made me think, you know what, man? It's not like it was back in the 1990s, which leads to another 90s Baseball Wednesday.
Yeah.
That's right. It's 90s Baseball Wednesday.
Oh, it's Spiced Up Wednesday.
Yeah, Spiced Up
Wednesday brought to you by Bacardi, which we are currently in the middle of. So these better be some spicy 90s baseball
these are
stats.
Spicy, Spiced Up Wednesday 90s baseball players.
Let me say one thing before we get to 90s Baseball Wednesday. I've gotten a lot of people complaining on Twitter that some of the players that we mention when we talk about 90s baseball aren't really from the 90s or more from like the 2000s or whatever. You don't understand, people. 90s baseball doesn't mean you only played in the 90s or you even played at all in the 90s.
No.
90s baseball is a state of mind.
That's correct. That's
like
correct.
Jorge Cantu.
Yes.
Jorge Cantu
Yeah.
never played in the
Yeah.
90s.
Doesn't
matter.
Is absolutely a part of 90s
the spirit
baseball.
of the
right?
90s, yes. Also, late 80s can be part of the 90s.
Right.
Or you
The
spoke.
70s, as far as I'm concerned, it theoretically goes from the 70s up to today.
It's like a contemporary music FM station. But I do think I'm glad you said this though, Mike, because I have wanted to quibble with one or two of the names.
Oh, Jesus.
Purely on the basis of the time
No
period in which they
quibbling.
play.
No
but
quibbling.
I'm now 100% behind the spirit of the game.
That's right. Let me ask you this. Let me ask you this: is Ricky Weeks
polite.
a part of '90s baseball?
Until you,
Yes.
until you just went on that monologue, I would have said no. I would have said no, not for me.
You're wrong. Is Shea Hillenbrand a part of '90s
Oh,
baseball?
Shea Hillenbrand.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'll
yeah,
go
I'll
over
give you
that.
that.
Yeah,
I'll give you that.
Yeah,
I'll
never
give you
played in the '90s.
That
Now
guy
you're
can be
beginning to
mad.
understand it.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
All right, here's the point. On '90s Baseball Wednesday, I have in front of me a list of the highest individual hit totals of any season by any player in either league in the '90s. Does anyone want to guess who's on that list?
No.
You'll never guess the number one. I'm telling you right now. You'll never.
How many
guess
names
it.
are we
not
guessing?
Tony
Gwynn.
Tony Gwynn is on the list.
Can
yes.
you ask the question again? It was confusing.
No,
Seriously.
Jessica. No, don't ask the question again, Jessica.
I need it.
No, he's trying to get fired, and Jessica just said she doesn't want any more information on this. We've had enough of Mike Schur today. We don't.
I want to play the game.
You want to play the game? I want to ask him about Odabe McDowell.
Great lead
Oh,
off
to be
there.
young again, McDowell. That was Burma's nickname for him. Remember?
What do you have there? What more information do you have for us?
What do I have on Odabe McDowell?
You don't have. You can't recite all. I
Mike,
assume
part
that
of
if
your
I-
prep process for this show isn't to beef up on Odabe McDowell knowledge?
What do you
How
want?
dare you?
What are you even potentially looking for on Odabe
He's so,
McDowell?
he's so right. After the name, what else is there to say?
I thought for sure he would have a fountain of information. Maybe you
Fountain of
can get it
information.
at the podcast with Joe Posnanski. We've got a he's sure question, and the question is for a
Hey,
world-renowned.
hold on.
What happened to the
was
90s hitter thing?
What was the game that Mike Schur wanted to play?
I don't. It got obliterated when Dan said, "What else do you have there on Odabe McDowell?"
Or when Jess said no.
I mean, I can read out the rest of the 1986 Texas Rangers if you want me to.
No, play the
Let me-
game. Play the game.
I'll just give you. Let me give you 4 names of guys who had very high hit totals at some point in the decade of the 1990s. All right, you've got B.J. Surhoff for the
man.
1990 Orioles. You've got Marquise Grissom for the Braves.
Tremendous.
You've got Vinny Castilla for the 98 Colorado Rockies.
Did he bat
You've
barehanded?
You've got Carlos Baerga and Doug Glanville. But the number one season of any hit total season for any season in the 90s, Lance Johnson for Stugotz's New York Mets in 1996, 227 hits. That was the highest hit total of any season in the 90s.
Amazing.
Isn't that wild?
Johnson.
20-year-old Ruben Sierra was on the same 1986 Texas Rangers with Odabe McDowell.
Yep.
We have lost Jessica. Hashtag he's sure. He's a world-renowned ethicist.
Surhoff.
And the question is, should we even watch football?
I feel like I just ranted about that for like 3 minutes, didn't I?
He definitely did. Also, he's fired.
He is fired?
What?
What do you mean he's
No,
fired?
we don't get to unilaterally decide who's fired. There'd have to be a vote. A jury of our peers would have to determine Mike Schur's status on the program. We can call a vote. This is like Parliament. We can call a vote whenever, but
He still has a job.
See you later, Mike.
Bye. Thank you, Jess, for trying.
Mike, don't forget to
welcome.
send me one of those Bortles jerseys.
You got it.
Thank you.
Jessica, has this Wednesday felt sufficiently spiced up? Do you have any stories that could spice it up a little bit extra spicy here? I think Bacardi needs to get a little more for what it is that it's sponsored today.
Well, Dan, does the name Utah connote spiciness to you?
not quite.
No,
Utes.
Utah does not give off spiciness
Damn.
in general.
Okay,
no.
what if we're talking about a nuclear reactor in Utah?
Spicier.
Getting there. Warmer.
What if it's a student at the University of Utah threatening to detonate a nuclear reactor if Utah loses a football game?
I think we're there. No, I think we're there.
That's the proper amount of spice. That's too
Perhaps
much.
too much. Too spicy.
Threatening if they lost, that was the threat, and what ended up happening.
So a couple weeks ago, Utah was playing San Diego State at home. And okay, this is a question for everyone. Have you heard of Yik Yak?
No.
Nope.
No.
Jeremy has. Okay, Jeremy, when you were probably a freshman in college, that was when Yik Yak had its heyday. Does that sound accurate?
Correct.
So apparently Yik Yak is back. So this was a social
Excellent
media
work,
app.
Jeremy. I don't want to hear anything else from you on the show.
He rushed to the microphone just to say correct. It was a good job by him.
That one
Tony,
word
have you
and
heard
nothing
Yik Yak?
else.
Yeah, I know Yik Yak.
Okay, so if you went to college in like 2012 or 2013, 2014, you've probably heard of Yik Yak. It was this app that was sheer hell that was created by these people at Furman, I believe. And when I was a freshman at Clemson, everyone was using it. And it's basically anonymous Twitter, and it's geolocated. So if you live in Miami and you post something anonymously to it, other people in Miami see it. And so you can literally post whatever you want on it. And obviously that's a terrible idea for a social media app. So Yik Yak got taken offline, I believe, like a year and a half or a couple years after it was invented, and then it came back, which I just found out from this news story. So this is like equal parts social media plus college football fandom. So apparently this woman who is a student at Utah, this happened a couple weeks ago, but obviously the story is so big that we still wanted to talk about it, even though we
even though
didn't talk about
we're
it at
weeks
the
late.
time.
Even though we're weeks late, it's still a nuclear reactor. It's an unusual game. I wouldn't have had it for that game. Usually the threats of
Well, that's-
nuclear reactors are
that's
not
kind
San
of the-
Diego State involved.
That's kind of the thing. So she was a student at Utah. She still is, I assume. And she posted on Yik Yak, allegedly, if we don't win this game, I'm going to go detonate the nuclear reactor on campus. And the police obviously saw it and arrested her. And they were like, you can't do that. And Utah, I should add, won the game 35-7. So it wasn't even really
A lot of pressure on my uncle Kyle Whittingham that day.
Yeah.
The Utes are good. I like the Utes. The Utes will give you 10 wins a season the last few
Well, they
years.
have
They will,
have
yes.
a tough stretch of
Good
games coming
breakdown.
up. They're playing UCLA this weekend and USC the weekend after, and then Washington State, which isn't a great team, but could definitely give them fits. They famously beat Wisconsin this season. Anyways, Dan, that's not the point.
That defeat though on the opening weekend to Florida looks worse though with
Yes.
each passing weekend for the Utes.
It definitely does, which is why overreacting to week one non-conference games or conference games really to anything is always kind of like
There's one
we do
team-
it and then
It's a
we're
dangerous
like,
game,
why did
Jess.
we do that?
Yeah.
There's one team every year that puts together the heroic performance in week one and
Yes.
then doesn't live up to it for the rest
Like
of the season.
Notre Dame, Texas in 2016. It was like, Texas is back. This was a crazy game. Notre Dame ended up winning 4 games that season, fired their defensive coordinator, almost fired Brian Kelly. Texas, I
Florida
don't
State,
even remember what
I
they
feel
did.
like Florida State did that for 3 quarters against Notre Dame
Last season,
and then
yeah.
they didn't win.
And then Notre Dame
but
ended
even
up
still,
winning,
that
like-
was the heroic effort,
Right.
and then they went 5-7 or whatever as they went.
And Notre Dame won 10 or 11 games last season. So it was just like, okay, it was just a close week one game. It happens. Brian Kelly threatened to execute the players afterwards. But anyway, so I was reading about...
Speaking of execution,
I was reading about the nuclear reactors on college campuses because, it's funny in the sense that the police say there's a almost less than 0% chance that this person could actually do this. However, it is actually it's a serious crime.
Yeah,
Like,
you
don't-
cannot do that.
Don't do it. And apparently another student had also done this on Yik Yak prior to this, but it wasn't nuclear reactor. It was just a bomb threat, which also don't do that. But in researching this story, our friend of producer on DNF and the Full Cast After Dark, Douglas, tweeted a list of all the colleges that have nuclear reactors on their campuses. I had no idea that this was just a thing.
I had no idea there were any on any campuses.
right? If you had said that list was 1, I would have been stunned. There's multiple. How many?
The University of Florida has one.
That's
Does
a
that
terrible idea.
does that scare you?
Yeah.
Yes.
What about the University of Wisconsin? No. What
I
about
Scares me
I
from
don't want
Wisconsin.
nuclear reactors
what
around
about Penn State?
18 to
drunk
22-year-olds.
kids. I
I
don't.
mean, you're studying
How about-
nuclear science, though.
How about the fact that Texas A&M has 2? Now are you scared?
Oh, yes.
Because it's an agriculture school and
Yeah.
and a cult.
But what? I mean, Roy, you said to study them, but like, do you need to have the real? Like, do you have to work with a nuclear reactor and have it on the campus? Like, I would presume the nuclear reactor then provides energy to its local area, right? Like, that's part of the reason why it's there. But that is not to be trusted in the hands of basically children.
Well, but I think what Jessica is saying is also probably true, that being able to say it on Yik Yak and actually do the labyrinth of things that you have to do to set off a nuclear reactor are probably two very different things. And one of the dumbest things you could do is that announce you're going to do
announce
it
the nuclear bomb.
And
on
then,
Yik Yak.
Dan, I made the connection finally, which I've been trying to make my entire life. That's why they call it the nuclear football. I get it now.
That can't be.
It
can't be.
I don't think so.
Because if your football team loses, you find the codes and you set off the reactor.
I thought you were going to hit her with the loser game show sound. Is what I
mean,
thought.
it was a
with
really
that
bad pun,
silence that you were going to fix there. Let's get to the top 5 list that we've still got outstanding. One of which just made an appearance. Oh no!
Oh my gosh!
Billy's in the kitchen, but that's not Billy. That's Elon Musk. That's Elon Musk.
Hey, friends, remember me? I'm back. You thought I wasn't going to buy Twitter? I am. Hello, sir. How are you?
Doing good.
I'm going to buy Twitter, friend, and I'm going to turn it into an everything app. Name something.
Onion.
It's on the app. X is going to have everything, friends. Now, let's get to First Take, where we have Mad Dog and we have Stephen A. and we have Kimberly Martin also. And they were talking about the topic QB or not QB. Ooh. Is now the right time for Kenny Pickett? Great question. Now, Mad Dog said, throw him in the deep end of the pool and see what you've got. What are we laughing at over there?
Why is my father hovering behind you? A man on the street interview you just did with my father. Why are you doing this?
Name something else, sir.
As Elon.
Black beans.
Black beans is going to be on X too, Dano. X is going to be the everything app. I said it yesterday on Twitter, and this is the first step in creating X, buying Twitter. Name something else.
Potato.
Potato's going to be on X as well.
I think your dad's just hungry.
Yeah, he's hungry.
Really is.
He just said my app was stupid, and I don't think that's great. Stephen A. also said, by the way, going back to Kenny Pickett for a second, the Steelers are so bad that if Pickett turns them around, he should be an MVP candidate. Then we went on to Aaron Judge, and the debate became, where will Aaron Judge play next year? Will it be the Yankees, or will it be the Mets? Who will pay him the most amount of money? And the answer is, me. He's going to play for me. I'm going to start a team, and he's going to play for me because I have all the money in the world. Name something else, sir.
Ran out of words.
He ran out of words, and that's not something that's going to happen on X the Everything app. Back to you.
Okay, thank you.
X going to give it to you.
My father, at this stage in his television career, doesn't have much in the arsenal other than foods, and he runs out after 3 after building a breakfast taco. And that's all he had.
Surprised he didn't just like do.
He's tired. Give him a break.
Brick from Anchorman and just started looking at things and just go plant.
Lamp.
How many people in the world, when asked to name a thing,
I don't know.
Onion is where they start.
I don't think when you watch Jeopardy, you realize like how quickly everything you know could ever evaporate. Because when you watch it on television, you're like, these morons. And then you actually go on the show, and I imagine it's like, wait, I've forgotten just basic facts that I know about everyday life. And I feel like that is a question where if we had like Chris Cody walk down the street and be like, name a thing, that it would like you'd probably just look at what's closest to you. You forget all the things that you ever know.
Let's do that as an exercise.
Name a thing.
Name a
Liar.
thing with Chris. Name a thing with Chris Cody. I don't know why that report was done on First Take as Elon Musk, but Elon Musk is now buying Twitter again. And Stugotz Whittingham is with you now. You were first. Yours was the first take.
Yeah.
That called Elon Musk a fraud.
Mm-hmm.
And now Whittingham's on your side.
I don't think you've ever been more right about anything in your entire life.
It might be my best take. Yes.
Seriously.
Yes.
Which I actually would be a great spin-off for instead of First Take, the First Take. Which is you were the first to say something and we chronicle people who said something first. But Stugotz could not have been more right about Elon Musk. It's enough. I had already done he's going to buy Twitter, he's not going to buy Twitter. I had put that out of my brain. I read about these things for the sake of this program because we might talk about them. I don't give a shit about Elon Musk or anything that he does. His cars are cool. I like going to the little Tesla pop-up that's at the Aventura Mall. I like sitting in the cars. The features are cool. It's a nice car.
Cool.
I have a nice time. But the everyday dealings of Elon Musk, I would not spend a second, an iota of my brain energy on them if we might not discuss them for this show. And I'm glad that Stugotz is out there with the opinion that this guy is a quack who's just in it for the attention. It's enough of Musk.
His cars are
It's
cool.
enough.
His cars blow up. They explode.
That's
His
if
cars
they-
are cool.
That's if they make it to your driveway. I mean, they never
Wait,
get delivered.
Can we go back to Whitty going to the Aventura Mall to go sit in a Tesla? It's like an amusement park for weird dads.
Aventura Mall?
Well, yes, that and the Tesla pop-up in the Aventura Mall. Yeah, it's really cool. Like
It's a Saturday
You go
night for
sit-
you.
Do you turn the seat heater on? Do you put the seat forward and backwards?
No, you play with the screen, and then there's like you can see the thing where you can upload the fart noise that becomes your horn.
Yeah.
Like you can go through all of the different features of the Tesla. I think it's a really cool thing. I wish I had a home where I could like have my whole thing solar. It seems great. Tesla products, thumbs up for me. But like this whole thing where I have to pay attention to this guy's every move because it moves the stock market and people talk about it on social media, and he's this guy's hero. Enough.
Well, it's not going away if he's actually going to buy Twitter, which it still might not happen, but he says he's going
It
to.
probably won't happen.
It won't happen.
Right.
I'm here to tell you
Yes.
it's not happening.
Yeah.
It was going to be $1 billion penalty, and then the lawyers got involved, and now he is back in the game. But we cannot go any further, Stugotz, without getting these top 5 lists out. You just produced another one during the break for no reason whatsoever that I could discern. You had top 5 hockey names that just by virtue of their names, you can tell they were born to play hockey.
If you're born with this name, you were born to do one thing: play hockey.
That's the top 5 list right
Yes.
here. So number
Yes.
5.
Lindy Ruff.
Number 4.
Jeff Bookaboom.
That's not a real person.
Yeah, it is.
Number
Yes, it
3.
is.
Darius Kasperitis.
Good name.
Great name.
Number 2.
Stan Mikita.
Number 1.
Guy Carbonneau.
Christoph Oliwa not on the list.
Oh my God, I forgot about him.
What do you mean you forgot? You can't have a top 5 list where you forget about things. And now, top 5.
Anyone named Guy is destined to play hockey.
Yes.
Yeah,
Wow.
LaFleur.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, but Carbonneau. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he was good, right?
Yeah, he was good. Yeah, he was good.
Billy, now that you're back from First Take, what do you make of my father grabbing black beans, onions, and potatoes and then running out of material?
Well, not to betray confidence, but he turned to me afterwards. He said that was bad, and I go, yeah. I go, but it was not you. Like I was the bad one there. That was not good. Like, I was like, that wasn't good by me, and that was on me. I didn't prep him. I didn't. The thing is, there's lots. Look, it's taking us all behind. There's lots of things to juggle there, right? Where it was like, well, we got to do the First Take update, and we got to do an Elon Musk thing,
Right.
and we got to do Papi, and we have a little window and a little bit of show left. So it's like, how do we get all 3 involved in one here?
I wish Billy
Fair
good
play.
luck. I did.
You did it as well as you could.
I don't know how that turned out. Yeah, I mean, I did it, but that's where that'll end.
But it's on you, not on Papi.
No, 100%.
Right,
I
yes,
didn't even
yes.
tell him. He was just kind of hanging out there, and I decided to go to him and talk to
He
him.
could have said anything. I mean,
Number 5
oh, what is this?
on the list of people
It's a
that you
confusing
would
list
put
you came
down
up with.
all of your morals if they were nearby and they were threatening to tackle you. Number 5.
Steve Atwater.
He's number 5?
Yes.
Wow.
Number 4.
That was a bad man.
Number 4.
Dexter Manley.
Oh, good. So it's a good list so far. Number 3.
Deacon Jones.
Number 2.
Conrad Dobler.
Oh, Jesus. So old. So old. Everybody
I
on
think
this.
these people all retired before I was born.
I think she might. Well, Conrad Dobler certainly did.
That's a badass, man.
Conrad Dobler had a commercial. Did he have the commercial where he threatened somebody to knock a battery off his shoulder?
No, that was Robert Conrad.
Can you name someone that played after Y2K?
I love that, like, when this show
I think.
exposes, like, when Stugotz was most passionate about sports and, like, could encyclopedically name all of these people, and he didn't need to research. When we do modern things, he's got to research them and look them up. But there was this period in Stugotz's life where sports was all-consuming, and I could just remember, I could cite every name off the top of my head of the 1991 Minnesota Vikings.
And number one, let's see if Stugotz can indeed name any athlete born this century. Number one.
Larry Zonka. Zonk.
He's like 230 pounds.
Yeah. He would make you rethink everything.
He was giant for the time.
Speaking of people who like were born with a name that indicates what they have to do later, Magnus Carlsen, this chess grandmaster who's at the center of this whole chess cheating scandal, that guy was born to be a chess grandmaster. And the other guy who's now like challenging him, who may have cheated, Hans Niemann, was born to be someone who might have cheated at chess.
Wow.
For me, Magnus Carlsen gives off world's strongest man more than it gives off chess
it's
man.
Magnus. It's a
Norwegian.
Magnus.
It's a
Yeah.
Norwegian
And
name.
Hans Niemann gives off, I think, like Formula One a little bit to me.
I'm with
Yeah.
you. Good shout.
Disagree.
Wow.
Wow.
Well, there's an update to the story, which, by the way, Pablo Torre on the ESPN Daily this morning, hosting an episode about the chess cheating scandal. It was about as excited as to talk about a topic as Pablo's ever been. I mean, he was smiling ear to ear the entire time. I could hear it.
I
He
love
was
his
in
happy reads.
His bag talking about chess with this guy that he had on. And apparently now the new word is that chess.com has acknowledged that they know for a fact that Hans Niemann, I guess they don't know for a fact because they said, quote, likely cheated more frequently than he admitted to while using their site.
Pablo Torre doing that story with enthusiasm is incredibly on brand for Pablo Torre.
I listened to it this morning on my way into work, and I was like, "Yeah, he was born. He was born."
Finally,
to
a
tell this
chess
story.
story.
I couldn't give a shit, but Pablo really made me care about it. I'm not gonna lie.
How weird is the story? Yes, please.
After the break, the surprising twist that involves anal beats.
Billy, is it spicy enough for you that yesterday during this G League game that we are talking about, that there was during the announcing of the game, the name of a player is Ho You Fat. Ho You Fat.
Yeah, I believe I saw there was an article that I think Tim Burke retweeted from Deadspin from like 2013.
Yeah, he wrote it many years ago
of
about
like who this person was.
that. That was one of the players. You had a Pooh.
Yeah.
There was a lot
Pooh
going.
Richardson.
There was.
Yeah.
It's not Pooh Richardson.
Get your poos right.
Get your
Stugotz.
Poohs correct.
Sorry.
Let's go ahead and do Refran Del Dia. Papi is here, fresh off his potato, onions, black beans debut today. Papi is ready to do Refran Del Dia.
We should do like a post-game interview style with Papi. Papi, what was going through your mind when Billy went up to you asking to name things? When Elon Musk went up to you asking you to name things.
He caught me off guard. I was on script. That's all.
Right.
That's all. I mean, I reached out, and that's what I found in my bag of tricks. That's all.
Right. You gave him 3 out of the bag of tricks, and
then
that's
you
where you
had
draw
no
the
more.
line.
We were
Right.
waiting for a fourth one. Why
Well,
was
it's his
there?
bag of tricks.
Why did
I
you
mean-
said I'm out of material after onions, potatoes, black beans? You couldn't even name any more food.
That's right.
Okay.
Talk about your inability to come up with the names
It seems
of
like
things.
you choked. It seemed like
No,
you choked. You
no,
should,
no, that's not what happened.
no. Right.
Bobby did a
that-
good job. Yeah,
They called that improvising.
exactly.
Exactly. But you can only do it 3 times
No,
a day.
no,
right?
no.
3 times a day.
Right, exactly.
You guys don't get it. He flipped the script on the game. You know what I mean? Because it was like, hey, name anything. And then you play along with it. And then his answer to naming anything was, I can't name anything.
That's
and
right.
then he shifted the pressure onto the person asking the question. It's good improv. Good improv.
Which
Love
you
me.
could appreciate as someone who's an anarchist. Let's do Refran Del Dia, please.
Dímelo, mi gente. Where's my mic? Oh, there you go. Dímelo, mi gente. Jer Bear not doing what we need him to do. They're crazy.
Your mic was on. We
Wow.
heard you.
I don't know about
Look
that.
at
Can you
me.
hear yourself?
Blaming us, $5 for blaming
Wow.
It's a spiced up Wednesday, Dano. Things are spicy back here.
I told Papi, Bacardi's on board, baby. and
Bacardi's
he was
on board.
excited.
We are doing it.
I'm surprised. Yeah.
Poppy, please speak into the microphone like
Phone's
you've been a
ringing.
broadcast
Phone's ringing.
professional for the last 8 years.
That's a big fish.
To be fair, the microphone, in Poppy's defense, the microphone used to be clipped to his shirt. So
Okay.
Yeah. Big fish.
Bacardi is a big fish, yes, Poppy. What is El Refran Del Dia, please?
Let's spin the wheel. Ooh. This one has nothing to do with anything that we've ever done before.
Okay.
This is exciting.
Billy, what is happening? Billy, you don't support this
don't know.
segment.
No,
You don't
he's
support
smiling, but
Tony.
Not at all.
whenever Tony does the slightest bit of setup, we got to break it down.
Well,
Just like he's trying to,
Billy is not
lay the
supportive,
groundwork.
though.
No.
Billy is laughing in his face,
Not
not
at
giving
all.
him
No.
confidence.
We had a conversation prior to this that
Yeah,
one
we-
of them ended up popping up on the wheel, but I feel bad because every time that Papi comes in, we get una groseria.
Yeah.
And I don't want to have to do that again for Papi.
Papi,
Of course, respecting my elders.
What's una groseria? What is una
That's a
groseria?
bad word. That's all.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah,
it's just-
something that's
It's
unpleasant.
gross. It's disgusting.
Just
Yeah.
hypothetically, if it was the other one, what would it have been?
No, because that's going to come up on another spin of the wheel. So I want to save that one in the clip. But the one I have here is a very good one. Okay, Billy's going to like this one. Bobby's going to like. Everybody's going to like this one. Everybody who's Hispanic has had this said to them at some point in their
The
lives.
other one was good.
The other one was good, but we'll save that for another day.
I want the other one now.
Oh, Dan, come on.
Give me the other one.
Do this one first. Do this one first, and then we could do the
Okay,
other.
Let's
We'll
hope
give-
it
we'll
lands
give
on the
you
other
two
one.
for-
Hold on.
Oh, wow, it landed on it.
How lucky. How fortunate.
Wow.
Oh, Poppy.
What are
Can
the
you
chances?
believe it?
Okay.
Unbelievable.
Okay, so the do we want to do the original one first, or do we want to do the second
Let's
one
do the
first?
dirty one. Let's do
The dirty one first. Okay. Okay. The today's Refran Del Dia is part 1. Me cago en tu madre.
Hold on.
I can't wait until someone tells me what it means.
This is something that
Everybody has had this said to them at
it's
one
true.
point in their life.
This is everyone Hispanic who is listening to this has heard someone in the house say this to them. And Papi, the literal definition.
You want the-
yes, the me cago en tu madre. The literal definition, please get it correct. Let's get it accurate.
I shed on your mother.
What?
God damn. That's a fight. That's a fight.
Tony, we can't do better than that. Just end it there. That's right.
I was going to say another word. You wanted it.
The last thing listeners will hear is
What do you want me to do?